Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Creative Real Estate Ownership. My name is Josh Silverman, and today I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Arlo Zoerner of Cross Country Mortgage, and he's joined with me before, and this is kind of a quarterly series where we explore what's going on in the finance industry, the mortgage industry, in terms of finding creative solutions, creative financing. Arlo's right at the forefront of it, and he called me about this program that we're going to be talking about today, and he said, hey, this is a perfect topic for us to cover. We're looking today at what's called the CALHFA Dream for All Loan Program. It's a state-sponsored program, not a California state government program, is kind of the way I'd frame it. So Arlo, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of background on the program, and then what we're going to do is we're going to break down the numbers and really show you why this is such a cool opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I think this is my second appearance, and this is a great topic. This one is super relevant. This is ultimately a down payment assistance program because they provide some assistance to make a down payment. But what's super unique is almost all down payment assistance, you're doing like a conventional loan with as little as 3% down and they give you 3% assistance. Or you're doing an FHA loan with 3.5% down and you get 3.5% assistance. What's really unique about this offering is they're giving you the 20% down payment. And so some watching this may know, and some are just starting in their home ownership journey. But when you put down 20%, there's no monthly mortgage insurance and you get some really great terms. So this one is unique in how much assistance that they're providing.
20% down. So when you talk about they give you the 20% down, they don't give it to you. It's really a no interest loan for as long as you own the property, right? So they're going to offer you that 20% down up to a $750,000 purchase price on a property, right? So they'll offer you 20% of that down, and then the way you pay it back is actually when you sell the property, you give them that 20% down back, and then you also owe them for that service 20% of your net earnings, right? So your profit or the appreciation on the property, you owe 20% of that as well. So that kind of acts as the interest on that 20% loan, essentially, in some ways.
If the markets don't, you buy them out when you sell the property, you share 20% of appreciation, or you can just buy them out before you're ready to sell the property. So maybe some assets accumulate and you get 3 or 5 years down the road and you have enough money to buy them out, but maybe you haven't appreciated a bunch during those years. You would have very little appreciation to share, and instead you just got a zero interest loan, making your 20% down for that first duration of ownership. So there's two different exit strategies of how people will leave the program. As you can see on the screen that we're sharing, the first loan program we laid out is just a very kind of a typical, I'm a first time buyer, I have a smaller down payment, so I'm going to put down 3%. And you can see that down payment is about 17 grand, the initial investment down payment piece. So you can tell what your loan amount will be left over with, how much monthly mortgage insurance is, because on a regular loan with less than 20% down, you have mortgage insurance. And so then you can see your total monthly payment there. We carried that through and we looked at like a 10-year ownership period, averaging 4% on appreciation. So some years will be less, some years will be more, but we felt like that was a reasonable benchmark when we look back 80 to 100 years of real estate. So it's always interesting to see, like, wow, my first purchase, if I buy at 575 and I never saw double-digit appreciation, I saw 4% of an average over a decade. It's growing to an $850,000 home. And that's like the big secret in real estate, or like the big part of California real estate, is that wealth creation. You know, you're creating $275,000 of wealth that way. You would obviously be paying your loan down some, so how much equity you'd have in the home would be a little bit more. But that's like a benchmark of figures. There's no down payment assistance that's involved with that. And that's just a benchmark, like your typical lower down payment getting started with home ownership purchase. So then, as Josh mentioned, the middle column, we're calling this like, I can find the right home at this price point, but I'd really like some payment relief. And so it was nearly $800 less per month on that middle column. And to key in, you're putting in a 0% down payment on your part, and the Dream for All program is putting down the 20% for you. So that's going to be about $115,000 of assistance. So you can see your loan there is only $460 because they provide that big down payment. And because that 20% down payment is there, there's no monthly mortgage insurance involved. And so then that monthly payment's about $34.87. It was just within a few dollars of $800 in savings compared to the other way. Some thoughts would be, could I take this $800? I mean, it's two pieces here. You either need a payment closer to $3,500, you can't go to $4,300. So if so, this lets you own the real estate and generate the appreciation, the profit, but sticking within your monthly budget. Or you say, I can actually afford $4,300, so I'm gonna balance out my investments, and I'm gonna have the piece of real estate appreciating. I'm gonna take the extra $800 that I technically could do. I'm gonna invest that in the market and compound that over the long term and build up another bucket. So the same appreciation rate on the same sales price would equal the same value. But then with this one, you're sharing 20% of that appreciation. So on the way out, at the end of 10 years, you would repay out of the 276 of appreciation, you would share 20% of that. So you would share about 55,000, and you'd walk away with the 220 as your portion of appreciation. The last version, I think, is really what most people in this climate, like most of the challenges that Josh and I face, it's affordability, and rightfully so. With the run up on values through the pandemic, and then how well values have held up, but borrowing costs have doubled since that period. So the third option is where we're holding your same monthly payment. Like, we view this as you came in to get pre-approved, and from a payment standpoint, you could hold one number and that equal the sales price of $575. The big question is, well, if I had 20% down and no mortgage insurance, how much home would I be able to buy? And this one would allow you to buy $700,000 of sales price. So you're still doing 0% down on the next column, but you're getting $140,000 down payment, the assistance they provide. And so you're being left with a loan for $560. And then you're getting that monthly payment that matches up to that first column, where if you'd only did your own 3% down, like how much less you'd be in price. So in that way, again, it's amazing. You buy at 700 and 10 just steady, consistent, or average years at 4%. You create about $336,000 in appreciation. So the value of the home would get up to $1,036,000. You'd share 20% of that appreciation, and then your net profit would be about $270,000. The big kicker there is just, hey, I got pre-approved, but there's no homes for me at $575. But yeah, there's definitely homes for me at $700. So that's really like the big door, no pun intended, that the program would open up. They don't actually do loans with consumers. They work with mortgage companies who offer the program. So you will need to choose a loan officer and a company who's approved with CALHFA, and you can't go directly to them and do the loan with them. Doesn't work that way. I thought that would just be helpful because sometimes that's a question that comes up.
Yeah, and then one more piece. If you are chosen, you do win this lottery, you have 90 days to buy a home, right? So it's not an open-ended thing for 2 years. You have 90 days to close, which is sufficient time to find. In
this climate, it really is. Yeah, they provide a voucher. So their last time they did the lottery, I think it took like nearly 2 months. It doesn't take a week or two. They really look hard at the applicants. There are some checks and balances, but it'd be a little too deep for the sake of this video, and we would cover that during your pre-approval process. You have to be a first-time home buyer. There's a few other checks and balances that I can walk you through and talk to you about. But they really do quite a bit of due diligence. So it actually will be a couple of months. That gives you some time to familiarize yourself with the market and get ready so that if you are chosen, you can hit the market confidently. But in this current climate, with how aggressive it is for buyers, sellers, and how long the cycle takes, I think 90 days it's enough time.
I think this is a wonderful program, and I encourage folks to reach out to either or both of us, and to get the process started, and let's get some creative financing going for this creative real estate that we all want to own. And I appreciate you joining today, Arlo.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.